Good afternoon, boys and girls. So what we're going to do today is we are going to do an artwork. We're going to be making a collage where we take lots of different papers and materials and we put them together in an artwork. But the kind of artwork we're going to be doing is going to look at color today. And there's a specific kind of color that I would like to tell you about. And it's a really long word. It seems really hard. It's called monochromatic. The word, or the root part of the word mono, that means one. So it helps me to remember mono means one, so we're talking about one color. And what it is using different tints and shades of the same color or of one color. So let me give you an example. So let's say that we start with the color red, okay? Red is a basic color. And I should write it right over here, red, okay? So we've got our color red. If we take red and then we add white to it, that's called a tint. And what would that look like? If we take red and we mix it with white, it's gonna be a lighter version of red, and we would call that what? We would call that pink, right? So pink is a tint of red. And then we also need shades. So if we take red and we mix it with black, what is that gonna look like? Well, it could look like several different colors, but I'm gonna say like a brick red or a dark red. I'm gonna write brick red, okay? So if you have an artwork that has red, pink, and brick red, it seems like they're different colors, but that's called a monochromatic scheme, meaning that it's a kind of group of colors using one color. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get lots of different papers and magazines and materials, and we are going to find one color but in different tints and shades, and we're going to gather them up to create our artwork. So let me show you how we're going to do that today. Okay, boys and girls, so we've got some different supplies here. We've got glue and scissors and paper. We are gonna use all of those things, but I'm gonna set those aside because I'm actually not gonna use those quite yet. So we've got different like papers and different magazines and stuff at our table. The first thing that we need to do is we need to think of a color. So I want you to start first with a color that is kind of a basic color in the rainbow. I don't want you to get like gold or silver, although those are really great colors. It's gonna be hard to find tints and shades of those. So I want you to think of just like a color like yellow or red, or it could also be some neutral colors like black or brown is fine too. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna think of your color and you're gonna go through here and you're gonna find everything that you can with that color. And you can use your scissors to cut them out if you want, or you can just rip them out. Sometimes I like to rip them out and then go back in and kind of cut the parts that I like from that page later. So I'm gonna start, I would like to do the color green. And I actually already have some papers that are green, so I'm gonna set those aside in a stack. But I'm gonna flip through this magazine. Ooh, look, there's some green already. And some of these magazines, to be honest with you, I haven't gone through all of them. If you find anything that is questionable or inappropriate or something that you think that you should not be looking at, please make me aware of that immediately and I will take that magazine and get you a different one. But what I don't want is for you to show your neighbor whatever that inappropriate thing might be. So let's just be responsible and mature about this. We're gonna go through and we are going to find our color. So I've got green, so I'm gonna rip that out. And this is actually a different kind of green here. I don't know if you can see that. It's a feather duster. So I'm gonna rip that guy out too, and I'll use that part a little bit later. So I've got that. And I'm just gonna keep going. That's a green here, but it's kind of small, so I think that may not be the best one. We wanna try to get large areas of color. That'd be good for blue. Tiny bit of green, but probably not big enough. I'm gonna keep going. There's some green in here. I might cut that out. Ooh, this is cool. This is a bird. I wanna zoom in on this here. This little bird is not all green, but he's mostly green. I could cut him out if I wanted. That would be okay. We wanna think of things that are mostly the color that we're looking at, so that might be a good idea. But I'm gonna keep looking here. I'm gonna flip through here and see if I can find anything else. This is green. I could use that. There's some other color in there, but that's okay. What else? We got lots of blues and pinks. I'm just flipping through. There's some green broccoli. I think I'm gonna tear that out here. Mostly green there. We wanna try to get large areas of color. If you just see little ones, then maybe move on and see if you can find something better. Ooh, you can't see this here. Let me flip it around. There's a big space of green. Even though it has words on it, that'll still work for what I need. So I'm just gonna rip that out. That's a good background color. I'm gonna go on to the next one here and just kind of flip through here. and quickly see if I see any really large spaces of green. Not really, there's some green here, but I could probably do better than that. Ooh, that's good. So there's lots of green. So I'm just gonna rip that out. Okay, let me look at another one here. And I'm making, I don't wanna get too crazy with my papers. I'm making like a nice, and you can kind of see that. I'm keeping all of that together, okay? And then like I've got my next magazine, and I'm gonna go through that and I'm gonna see what I can find. In that very first page, it's got some green on it. So I'm gonna rip that off and go back in later. So once I've got a good amount of the colors that I need, and I've got a nice neat little stack here that could cover my paper, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of cut those out and glue those down onto my white sheet of paper. So I'm just gonna start, if I wanna cut off some things, maybe I don't want all the black in there. There is some black space, and that's okay, but maybe I want it to be a little bit more zoomed in on the color that I want. Once you've got your pieces, you're gonna start to glue them down. And I know you know how to glue, but we're gonna talk about how to glue really well today, because we're gonna be drawing over these and we don't want any little like pieces kind of sticking up. We wanna make sure to glue it down really good. So what you're gonna do is when you have your piece, you're gonna flip it over, and not on top of your white sheet of paper, but on the table, on all the edges. It's like you're gonna trace over the edges with your glue stick. Really good. And then you're gonna put some in the middle. So every single edge should have some glue on it. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue it down onto my paper, okay? And I'm gonna try to go close to the edges because I do wanna try to fill up most of those spaces. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my hands, and I've got a little glue on my hands, that's okay, but I'm gonna rub it down really good so that it lays really flat. So when I take my finger over the top and rub it in all directions, it's not gonna pop up. We want it to lay down really flat. Now I'm gonna go on to my next piece, and I'm gonna glue that down. And remember, we're gonna glue our edges really good. So every single part of that piece on the edge, and I'm even going off onto the table a little bit. You can kind of see where like I traced it and I left a little on the table, but that's okay today because we want to do a good job in getting all of our edges, and going onto the table will kind of help us do that. We don't want to get it all over the table, but a little bit is fine. So now I'm going to take that piece and then I'm going to glue it down, and I can kind of overlap over the top of that piece. That's okay, so we can fill up our paper. And I've got a little white peeking through, that's okay. Now I'm gonna rub my hands along all the edges in different directions to make sure that that piece lays down really flat. So if I rub my finger on it, you can see it's not coming up because I laid it down really good, okay? Then I'm gonna go on to my next piece. I think I'm gonna cut some off of this. I don't want all of that. And it's okay if some of those letters or words show through. That's not a big deal because most of that piece, it's green, right? And that's okay. So I don't need those pieces. I'm gonna set those aside. And then I'm gonna glue that next piece down, covering my paper. So I need to put it on the back. And it's not just doing it fast. That's not what this is all about. It's about taking your time. With a collage, I know it seems like, oh, we're just gluing bunches of crazy pieces of paper down, but we're really gonna take our time on this, okay? So I've really got glue all over on the back, really good. I'm gonna line that up with the edge of my paper, try to cover up as much as I can. And then remember, I'm just gonna rub over the top of it, kind of in all directions, so that it lays down flat. If there's any little piece that's sticking up, you wanna try to rub it. If you didn't get glue on it really good, then just peel that piece back up and put the glue on the back and then press it down again, rub it down really good, okay? So I'm gonna keep going so you can see what this looks like, and I'm gonna speed it up here. Okay friends, when you are finished and you've got mostly, there's a tiny little bit of white peeking through, but mostly I've covered all my edges here. When you are totally finished, what you're gonna do is you're gonna think of something that has that object. So, I'm sorry, that has that color. So like an object that is green, and you might even see it in your picture. I think a leaf or a tree or something is probably what I would think of. So what you're gonna do is first, you're gonna rub your hands over the top, kind of like I did, and if any part peels up, I want you to go back and glue it down really good, because if we get
glue on our Sharpie marker, then it's gonna ruin our Sharpie marker. So we want everything to be laying down flat. We don't want any glue peeking out. If you got glue and you got messy, you need to kind of wipe it up and wait till it dries before you do this part. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna think of an object that has the general color that you're thinking of. So green. So I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna do a leaf. So you're gonna draw out the object really big on your sheet of paper, just the outline with a Sharpie marker. So I'm just gonna take it, and this is kind of jagged paper, so I'm gonna be slow on this part. And you gotta draw kind of slow, because when you go over all of those bumps, sometimes it wants to kind of move your marker in another direction. So I'm gonna draw out my leaf here. Hopefully you can see this, okay? And then I'm gonna make sure that it's not just the outline, but I'm gonna add a little detail to it. So I'm gonna make that middle part, and I'm kind of going slow here because I know that my marker will go in different directions because it's a collage, okay? And it doesn't have to be something that is 100% that color. So like, for example, if it's blue, it could be like a bird or something like that. It doesn't have to be something that is all 100% that color. But I've got my leaf here, and I'm finished with what I'm gonna do today, okay? So that's what I want you to do. You're gonna make a collage, and then with a Sharpie marker, you're gonna think of something that is that color that you picked, and you're just gonna draw that outline on the top, okay? Good luck, guys.